macro shocks are not happening quite yet, but there are micro impacts. Do not change anything about your nonprofit. Don't do the pivot just for a funder. And this is, again, where AI can be very helpful. It's like, find the right people who want to come along. Be courageous in that. To all those nonprofits that are like, wait, should I chase these dollars because this is what's happening now? Don't do that. Like, remember why you exist, and the donors will come.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Missions to Movements. I am your host, Dana Snyder, and I'm coming to you from this beautiful studio at the Microsoft Global Nonprofit Leaders Summit. And I am thrilled to have across from me Naria, our MC of the week of this event, with 1,400 nonprofit leaders from 40 countries, which is phenomenal. The conversation, the energy has just been so lovely to be with each other in connection, learning. So as the MC, you've brought the energy.
Thank you.
You've brought the fun and the joy. And we're going to talk about skilling, because that's very important in this age of AI and technology that's happening. So will you share a little bit with us about your role and what Elevate and Skilling is actually doing right now in the intersection with the nonprofit sector?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for being here. And yeah, it's been really fun emceeing. I'm like, get the coffee, get there on time, sit down, bossy. I'm that, I excel at that. I'm really excited about, kind of the direction that we're going with Microsoft Elevate. We're a newer organization within Microsoft. Of course, the company's mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And we mean every. And I think Elevate is a big part of the every. So we're thinking about widening the circle of opportunity, who's potentially left behind. And one of the beliefs we have are that 3 systems that really play a big role are education, the workforce system, and of course, nonprofit organizations. They're the safety net. So what my team does is make sure that those systems, teachers, nonprofit leaders, job coaches in the workforce system, that they have the AI skills needed so that they can leverage AI to really help students, beneficiary, workforce individuals. So
it's so valuable. And I think there's been a shift. This was brought up today during the keynote on the difference of, or it was with Cammie at LinkedIn, of certification versus skills.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What have we historically always thought about doing, and then where are we moving to?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and I think it continues to iterate and evolve, of course. One of the main things that we really, whenever there's a new kind of technology that comes on, especially if it's a general purpose technology, not just kind of a task-oriented technology. So think the internet, think personal computing. There is a level of new skills development that needs to go with that, because it is just completely
uncharted,
new on the scene, uncharted territory. Exactly. And usually those kind of opportunities come to those that already have that ability. So how can we really think about not only making sure all those skills are available, but then there's some way to signal to the rest of the world that, yes, I have that skill. And that's why I think that certification, it does not have to be like a degree or pedigree, but those stackable things that you can say, oh, I learned this. You put it on your LinkedIn profile, then that attracts other kind of opportunities. And building out that pathway, especially when we have these new technologies, is super, super important. And that's what we're trying to do together with LinkedIn too.
I love, Juan talked about how he teaches and gave a great example this morning of, he works with, I think it was 10-year-olds, he said, with vibe coding. They were able to build something phenomenal with Braille in an hour.
Yeah.
I think it was remarkable. And so having somebody who can come in with those skillings, which is part of your work. So your background, I just want to talk about for a moment, is incredible.
It doesn't make any sense.
But that's the greatest part about careers, I think, is that they're a little bit roller coasters sometimes, but then they somehow all make sense into where you end up. But it's been workforce transformation, capacity building, inclusive economic opportunity. What for you, in this moment now, is the thread for you personally that brings it all together?
Yeah, I thought about that, because I was looking back, I'm like, what have I done with myself? But I do think it's actually very aligned to Microsoft's mission. And I did this exercise before I joined Microsoft, but I was like, how can I help people, reach their full potential? I think that's always been what I've been really trying to achieve. My family were immigrants. We're actually undocumented immigrants. And we were able to stay in this country because my father received the Reagan amnesty because he had his high demand science degree. And so it's truly for me, like, how can I make sure everybody has access to education, access to opportunity, access to that whole adage, like opportunity or talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not.
That's right.
And so I started my career actually in legal aid, and I represented juveniles that were justice involved, and then we provided wraparound services for them. Then I moved into running a scholarship program and another nonprofit organization, providing scholarships to low and middle income students in STEM. And then it was from there, actually, because my board chair was Brad Smith.
Oh my gosh.
That's how I ended up here at Microsoft.
Relationships are everything.
Yes. And that's the other thread I wanted to say is like, whenever I talk to young people now, I always say it's two things. Like, you never know who's going to be in that room, who will be that sponsor for you. Different than a mentor, right? You have a mentor too, but somebody can be a champion for you. So remember that, and then always do really great work.
Yes.
And those are the two things that I think are really critical. And amazing. And how amazing that those doors have been opened for me to be here sitting across from you.
I know.
And I try to always think about all those other doors that I can open as well.
You literally never know. So on my flight here to Seattle, I happened to open up, a friend of mine, Chirian, wrote a book recently on the neuroscience of giving.
Oh, wow.
And it's phenomenal. And so I had it in front of me, and the woman sitting next to me just happens to say, "Oh, what a fascinating topic for a book." And I was like, "Oh, are you in the nonprofit space?" And she happens to be on a foundation for women's scholarships in the Washington State area.
Amazing.
And so it created this whole dynamic conversation. So just to go, you literally do not know who could be next to you.
Exactly.
To open up doors. And pathways, which leads into my next question. You've been in the work.
Yep.
In your prior career.
Yep.
If we want, and you recently wrote about this, if we want more people to really thrive in this, what we want to be inclusive AI economy, you mentioned we need practical pathways that meet learners where they are.
Yep.
So for the fundraiser that might be listening right now, or the ED that's listening right now, what do pathways look like that they could start to take?
I love that. And if I could just talk about your first point with the book. First of all, I have to read that book. I'm super excited about it. And I wanted to just make a call because I was also a fundraiser, and I missed one part of the story where I actually ran the legal aid fundraising campaign for 2 years in Washington State. And then, of course, as an executive director, you are the chief fundraising fundraiser, right? And I want to say, like, I always say this to anybody who's on a board or people are afraid to ask for money. It's all about that neuroscience of giving, because I'm like, who are you? People are like, I'm not comfortable to ask. It's like, hey, you know what? People want to feel great.
Yes.
And what better way to feel great than if they can invest in something that they really believe in?
Yeah.
Some people don't have time to be able to do that direct work, or, maybe they want to like lead a nonprofit, but they can't because they have other obligations. So I always say, don't ever take an opportunity for somebody to feel great about themselves. Just ask. The worst you could do is ask, and they say no.
That's right.
And that's okay.
That's right.
So anyway, I just wanted to address that point. And then on that practical pathways, I've been thinking a lot about AI because I'm like, when you see that hockey stick adoption curve, people, it was like 100 million users in 18 months or 16 months or something like that, where it's taken like electricity decades to get there and phones decades.
That was a wild parallel that they put in place of talking about historically and how much transformation that had.
Exactly. But I've also been wondering if that was kind of not the best approach in this way, because everybody got it. My 75-year-old dad was using it, right from the beginning. My kids used it a lot as well. But I was like, are you supposed to be using that? This was in early days, right? And I think what happened was that people just kind of were playing around, and it became just this like entertainment tool, like write me a poem, do this. And people's use of it outpaced the way that organizations and firms operate. You need to think about really what's the use of the tool for the specific role. You need to re-engineer workflows in order to really bring the potential of AI to the forefront. So what we are really trying to do is think about what are the specific roles a teacher, a fundraiser, a volunteer manager, a board member, and then what are the things that that person does in their daily lives, and then start with that problem, and then think about the way that AI can kind of, and you need then to build the pathways so that they're really relevant. I think that's the way that we're going to have true adoption and diffusion.
I love how you're talking about this, because it's also, just to make it really common for the listener, what they go through is they're trying to hyper-personalize pathways for their donors to give. You're trying to hyper-personalize the pathways for the nonprofit professionals to be able to use the tools. So it's in total alignment in how their learning needs to feel customized for you to use it so that you do adopt it. So you can see that the opportunities are there relative to the work that you do. Workforce transformation is something that's been a popular topic over the week. And for some, that might sound very exciting. For others, they might be like, whoa, what are you talking about? Thinking like my role might disappear or change or evolve. I'm not even going to ask, does that come up a lot for you? Because I'm sure it does. But how do you envision, or how have you even seen AI evolving the workforce a bit?
That's a great question. And I don't think, well, first of all, I think that right now, our friends at LinkedIn have this great stat, which I use all the time, which is, I think by 2030, 75% of the skills kind of in like, even though we have the same role and title, are skills that we are really changing. When you look at software developers, for example, because you can do vibe coding, right? So they may not be doing that hard coding anymore, but they're more like front-end engineers and thinking about how teams work together and different, really different skills that are coming to play. And so I think we're still in the middle of that change. And if anybody's out there going, this is exactly how these kind of jobs will change, I mean, they're lying. Like, I think that's, we don't know. We don't know really how. They're not telling the truth, right? And there's a lot of hype. There is a lot of hype where people are like, you know, oh my gosh, this job is going to go away. And I think that there are other reasons why people want to create that hype cycle. But for us, when you look at the data, it's like macro shocks are not happening quite yet. But there are micro impacts. Like, for example, translators. That's 70% of the translator kind of gig economy roles have gone away. And that is a canary in the coal mine kind of thing that we should be watching, because they may not have as many of the social protections. And so what are we going to do? Like, how, let's make sure that we're aware of what these changes are happening and see how we can kind of test how they evolve. And then as a large language model producer, Microsoft, like, we really do believe we have a responsibility, because every single government leader asks that question, right, to us, like, what's going to happen to my people and their jobs? We don't know the answers, and we are thinking very deeply about how we can, you know, continue to assess what's going on, make sure, you know, we are identify who may potentially be left behind. Like, we're already kind of seeing signs about maybe women and jobs that women have.
Yeah, that was talked about during the keynote yesterday. But it sounds like, A, being on the forefront of doing the research, being open and ready to come up with solutions, having the conversations. I think my favorite part about being here is having the conversations with the nonprofit orgs and how it's just opened their eyes to be far more curious about how it can help them remain closer in their work and the human connection that they do.
Yes.
And that's so powerful. So I think we might see, it's interesting because I feel like we've been living in this very digital era where we're heads down, especially at airports, we can tell we're heads down all the time. Will AI, and I think it is, giving us the opportunity to not have to work on all those tasks more? Can we actually look up more? Right? Like, are we going to see, we always tend in history to like go back, like remember bell bottoms were in the 70s and then they came back, like style things change.
But they always change a little bit, so don't you?
Are we going to come back to human connection more because we'll have more time to do it?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be we have to set that, right?
Yes.
And
agree.
I think a lot of our listeners, a lot of the fundraisers, they're probably not IT specific in their role, but they're curious about AI. If you were back in your shoes like a decade ago, but you were living with the tech opportunities now, how would you have maybe approached using it? And what would you recommend to them?
Yeah, that's so first of all, great point. And I really do hope we go back. And I do hope AI is a way for us to open more time for ourselves. I think Gina Jorgensen said it today, right? Like, what will you do with that extra time? What are we going to spend it on? One of the main things as a fundraiser, like if you think about, to me, like I think I was pretty good at it, and why was I a good fundraiser because number one, like when I was interviewing for my last nonprofit role, they were like, can you make a 7-figure gift? And I was like, sure, I can ask anybody for anything. That's fine. Yeah. But what is it that we're providing? Like, how are we helping the world? It was a scholarship program, right? And they were just putting money into students' accounts. They had no idea why the students were just like, okay, what is this? And so what we ended up developing was an amazing program around that student. And we're like, the real issue here is that Washington State is losing talent. And this is during, especially, STEM talent. So how can we make sure that companies across this state understand that if they invest in Washington students, they're going to have that future engineer, they're going to have that future nurse. And so we changed that narrative. And then for the students, we developed an amazing program. It wasn't just like you got a check. It was like you got a mentor. Mm-hmm. You had a peer leader. You had connections into a network for an internship. You had sponsors.
Well-rounded.
Yes. And we had 96% of the students were employed within 6 months of graduating.
Wow.
So then now we have that story to tell. And donors were like, I want to be a part of that winning cause. So what would I have to, so I say all that to say, and none of that was about AI, but I think about every step in that process for me to have to develop the program, to think about how do we sell that? What kind of donors would be? AI can help in every single one of those things. So I think I would not have done anything differently. I think I would have been able to do it faster and with more precision. And we got no's, but no's are also really good because it helps you fine tune and everything.
Cherish the no's.
Cherish the no's, right? Exactly. I asked once for money for a scholarship, but they're like, no, we only support dogs. I was like, that's great. I love my dog. And then turns out a few months later, he came to our event and gave, supported, right?
You never know.
Anyway, I think long and short of it is I wouldn't have done anything differently.
Yeah.
I would have done it faster. And I think maybe we would have hit our goals even faster. We would have been able to tell that story back to our donors even better.
That was one of the stories when I was leading the panel discussion yesterday with Team Rubicon that Larissa talked about was when the Texas flood hit, they had implemented Copilot just months before. Wow. And they were able to have clear, consistent communication put out within hours. She's like, that would have taken tremendously more time. We had media bullet points. We had press releases. We had social. We had email. It all was able to come together so quickly. Amazing. And I said it was transformative because she said as a $40 million organization, that campaign raised $2 million.
Wow.
And that was unparalleled for them.
Yeah.
So I think it just speaks to the efficiency. And I think I asked her on stage, she's like, oh, we haven't actually really thought about it. I was like, what did the team feel in that moment? Because that must have been just such a powerful internal thing to rally behind, that we were able to create this generosity so quickly. So it's just a testament to exactly what you're referencing.
Very cool.
To wrap us.
Yes.
So Melinda French Gates joined us this morning.
Yes, she was great.
She was phenomenal. She made me cry.
I know, me too. I was like, backstage, oh my gosh.
It was so powerful. It was very unexpected. I was like, why am I crying right now? She said we need to take big swings.
Yes.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
And I think she's profoundly done that. How do you think we can encourage, and the other thing she said was to encourage each other, to support each other.
Yep.
In the reference, in the frame of we need to take big swings, how can we encourage each other to do that? And to have the courage to do that.
Yeah, that was great. I love that. And it's opening day today at the Mariners, our local baseball team. Hopefully we'll make it back to the World. We'll make it to the World Series.
So, yeah.
No, I loved what she said. And I think a lot of people, I was reflecting on it, just felt like this sense from the audience. Of oh my gosh, I didn't even know how much I needed that.
There was an energy in the room.
Man, it's been rough, past couple years for the nonprofit sector. And one of the things is when did it become not a cool thing to like support your community and give back. And anyway, she like really brought that to the fore for me. So on the big swings, like one of the things that I think you get asked a lot, especially if you're kind of in the corporate social responsibility and like corporate giving space, is like, what can I do? How can I change? And I'm like, do not change anything about your nonprofit. You are there because you are serving a critical need. Don't do the pivot just for a funder. Because if your idea is amazing and if you are helping people will come.
Yep.
If you can tell the story in the right way, if you can, and this is again where AI can be very helpful, is like find the right people who want to come along.
Yeah.
There will be people who come along.
Yes.
So stay true to what you're doing. Be courageous in that, like lean in. I think another reason why we were all like, is like she spoke a lot about funding women and girls. And I feel like for a while there, we've been like hiding that and trying to make everything like gender neutral.
She said 10 years. It took her 10 years to have the courage to make the internal changes. And if she felt that way,
exactly. Think about that. Right. But you have to stay, we have to stay the course. We have to name like different communities that are struggling and like do directed support for those communities. So I would say to all those nonprofits that are like, wait, should I chase these dollars because this is what's happening now? Don't do that. Like, remember why you exist and the donors will come. And then you can use AI to do that.
I love it. It's a beautiful way to wrap. We're going to have courage.
Yes.
We're going to take big swings and find the pathways to get there.
Wonderful.
Naria, thank you so much for being here and putting on this fabulous event.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. We got to meet up like informally. We just ran into each other.
The fun story. So this will just tell you about relationships. So I saw Naria yesterday during one of the receptions and I walked up being like, I'm so excited to interview you for this podcast. And she goes, oh, a podcast?
now you're outing me. And then I'm like, okay, well, and then
I would love to do a podcast. What you said,
I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. And then I was like, oh yeah, what's your jam? And she's like, monthly giving. And then we just went down a rabbit hole. And then we're standing there, and wouldn't you know it, like 20 people came up who knew you or knew me.
Yeah,
and it was like
it was perfect.
It was a beautiful,
harmonious,
very
harmonious. It was so lovely having you here. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.